Everyone, it's Cam from Arsenal Theory Podcast, and we're going to be doing a breakdown of the big game coming up at the weekend, Arsenal versus Aston Villa at Villa Park. And it's going to be an incredible match because it's a top of the table clash. So as usual, let's just get down to business. Got a few screens going on here. And starting with Villa, what an incredible result they had at the weekend, not the weekend, a couple of days ago. Beat Man City 1-0. By all accounts, it was a battering, even though it was only one goal. They had lots of shots. I think City had like 2 shots on target the whole game. And I've read a stat saying that it had none off target either, which is pretty mad when you think about it. And I've been watching some Villa fan kind of videos earlier on today. And they're all very, very bullish at the moment. They're all big on Don Unai Emery down there. And who can blame them? Because they're way up in the table. And it is a kind of top of the table clash. I want to talk about Villa because they've been like Arsenal and Everton, they've been a sort of forever mainstay in the league, really, in that they've always been a really, really big club. And they've typically always been referred to as sleeping giant. You know, when you think of sleeping giant clubs, you'd put kind of Newcastle in there and Villa, I suppose, in kind of recent times. Just clubs that have huge fan bases, but for whatever reason, they just haven't been able to kind of get it together and put a consistent run together in terms of the league or really in the cups as well. And so recently that's changing. Obviously, Newcastle have come into huge money and kind of Gulf state owned now. Villa have got billionaire owners and they're spending some cash as well. And interestingly, obviously, they got rid of Gerrard and Unai Emery came in. And really, he's just done such an incredible job. But we're going to get a bit more into that a bit later on, because I was thinking about over the years, there's actually been quite a lot of Aston Villa players that I really, really liked. And I remember a long time ago, I would have been, I don't know, around 10 years old, just being fascinated by Dalian Atkinson. It's an incredible Aston Villa striker from years gone by, no longer with us, unfortunately. Great player. Scored one of the best goals you'll ever see. Please look up on YouTube. If you just Google or YouTube, Dalian Atkinson, amazing goal, you'll find it. He takes it. I can't remember who it's against, but he basically just takes it around the whole opposition team and scores this incredible goal. Always loved him as a player. Julian Joachim, I think he played for Villa and Leicester. I'm pretty certain he played for Villa. Another cracking player who I always quite fancied having at Arsenal, to be honest with you. So I wouldn't say I have a soft spot for Villa, but you've got to respect them as a club. You know, they've got European pedigree as well. Really, really passionate fans, and their stadium can be quite intimidating. I remember thinking over the years that their pitch always just seemed massive, just a really, really big sized pitch. And obviously Arsenal used to be at Highbury, which is really, really tiny. But I read yesterday that apparently the dimensions of the Villa Park pitch are exactly the same as the Emirates. So I found that quite interesting, and maybe that might play into Arsenal's hands come the weekend. So yeah, but Villa, sleeping giant, it looks like they've been awakened and they're in full force, and their fans are really confident. They've been on this incredible run where they've won the last 14 league matches at home, which in any period of time, in any kind of era, is an incredible stat. I mean, you'd think, okay, 14 games at home, you haven't lost any, that's pretty amazing. But to have won all of them is quite unusual. And the last team to beat them at home in the league was, you guessed it, Arsenal. Now, we had, I think Brentford had a similar kind of record where they hadn't lost at home in like 2 years or something crazy like that. And the last team to beat them was Arsenal. So we've got a bit of form there. Last year, I remember watching the game at Villa Park where Jorginho scored an incredible goal right at the death of the match. Hits the bar, comes off the bar, hits Martinez in the back of the head, goes in, Arsenal 3-2 up. Martinez goes up for a corner at the last minute, and then Martinelli runs through, makes it 4-2. And it was a very, very nervy game, and we all thought we were going to go on and win the title, and obviously we didn't. But I think this Saturday is going to be a lot harder for us than it was last year, because Villa are just that much better team. So there's a few interesting kind of subplots in this game. We've got obviously Unai Emery, who used to manage Arsenal, went wrong. You've got the goalie Martinez, who used to be the Arsenal goalie, then he left. That's not looking like a good decision by Arsenal at the moment. There's players like Buendia, who Arsenal were in for, and then he signed for Villa instead of Arsenal. So there's kind of that to deal with. Apparently Villa were after Smith Rowe. We refused to do the deal there. So, excuse me. There's some crossover. There's some interesting subplots. Oh, Douglas Luiz, Villa midfielder who Arsenal have tried to sign 2 or 3 times now. And each time we've not been able to get it done. There's rumours we're going to go back in for him in January, but I really can't see Villa doing a deal with us. You know, they're banging a Champions League place, and they're rightfully so in a league title race as well. So why would you sell one of your best players to one of your biggest rivals for those things? So in terms of Unai, though, we do have to look back and kind of think of what went wrong at Arsenal, because there's a lot of revisionism taking place. There's Arsenal fans out there that are like, we should never have got rid of Unai. Opposition fans out there going, why have Arsenal done that? Tony Adams came out and said maybe Arsenal could have won the league if Emery had stayed in charge. Load of rubbish. People forget that when he joined, Arsenal were massively over delivering on their expected goals. You know, we were outperforming our XG, and when you're typically outperforming your XG, it levels out. You know, the numbers don't lie. Eventually, it will catch up with you, and that's what happened with him. And I think people forget that. Yeah, in the first season, he finished 5th, and we were in 4th, and we needed 3 points from our last 4 games to get top 4, and he didn't do it. And that's shockingly bad. We got to the Europa League final, so he's a Europa League specialist. We got absolutely dicked by Chelsea 4-1 in the final. Horrific. And then when we started the second season with him, the XG leveled out, and we were awful. We were really, really bad. I'll never forget watching that Watford game. The Watford game was horrific. You know, we let in like over 20 shots. I think we drew 2-2 or something. It was just, we were just, Watford refers like a knife through butter. And I think he has, at his time at Arsenal, there were just too many things, too many bad apples in the dressing room. Maybe the owners weren't quite as engaged as they are now, but are they engaged now because Mikel's made them engaged? And so that was something Emery couldn't do. To be fair to Emery, you shouldn't have to be able to kind of woo your owners that way. You'd think they'd be fully engaged because they're billionaires who own Arsenal Football Club. You'd think that would be enough, but apparently not. You know, so it didn't work out for him. We pulled the plug, and people forget, you know, Mikel was nearly made Arsenal manager when Emery got the job. You know, he interviewed for it, and Arsenal went with Unai. And I wanted us to go with Mikel at the time. Maybe it would have been too soon for him. I mean, you look how those first 18 months went for Arteta, and it really was. I mean, look, I've said myself, there were at least 2 times where I wanted him gone, and he feasibly could have been sacked. But you know, he's turned it around. So all credit to Mikel on that. In terms of the game, let's discuss some Arsenal keys to victory. And I think that the first part of this is not necessarily what we should do, but what we shouldn't be doing. And what we shouldn't be doing is giving them goals, which is unfortunately we seem to be doing quite a lot recently for the opposition. We've done it against Wolves. We did it twice against Luton. Just individual errors. We just see I think we've got the best defence in the league statistically, but we're also top of the mistakes leading to goals chart as well. I think we've given away 4 goals through just individual cock-ups. And you know, Villa will really, really punish us for that. So how I kind of see the game going is Villa are going to play a very high press, and I don't blame them for doing that. Players like Zinchenko can be got at. I think Odegaard can be got at. They can sometimes be a little bit slow to react. And Zinchenko can be very slow in terms of clearing his lines, trying to play out from the back. And I think Villa will look to capitalise on that. And I think the game plan is pretty straightforward from Villa's point of view. It's press high, turnovers close to our penalty area, and set pieces. Last year when we played them at Highbury, the Emirates, they scored directly from a corner. Douglas Luiz, who we were interested in buying, incredible set piece taker, was just pinging these corners in right under the bar on top of the goalie. We couldn't deal with it, and he scored directly from a corner. So I fully expect them to kind of use that game plan again. So whoever's in goal, I expect it to be Raya. He's going to have to be extremely confident, extremely brave, and he's going to have to be protected by the other Arsenal defenders as well. And we have to make the ref kind of know about any dodgy business going on with the Aston Villa players. So in terms of them blocking Raya's view, or actually blocking a view isn't really a foul, I suppose, but blocking his movement, holding him down, all those dirty tricks, they're going to be up to it at the weekend. And I don't know how we let the ref know about that. I mean, look at the pull that happened in Gabriel at Luton. The VAR didn't do anything. Arsenal, they clearly got it in for Arsenal. So I'm not expecting us to get much change out of the refs. But it is something we're going to have to be aware of. So in terms sort of tactically, we're going to have to be very, very brave and have to play through their press. It's high risk because obviously if we don't play out through it, they're going to turn the ball over and they're going to be in a very good position because it will probably be within kind of 40, 50 yards of our goal and they'll have many players committed. Now, the alternative to that is we start going long. Now, we bought David Raya for his kicking ability, and we got Kai Havertz, who's obviously got the height and can hold the ball up. The decision is really, when do you start employing those tactics? Do you start off by trying to play out from the back, realize you're not very good at, you're not going to be able to do that, and then switch tactics up? Or do you do it the other way around? Do you actually start off by kind of going long, having a big front man, and then as the game goes on and the Villa players tire, then start changing it round to kind of playing out the back and playing through the press, because it's going to be easier to play out through the press in the kind of last 30 minutes than it is in the first 30 minutes, because the Villa players are just going to be more tired later on, so there'll just be more angles. I've no idea what Mikel's going to do. I suspect he will. I would rather we went long early. I don't think he's going to do that. One of the reasons I'd like us to do that is I'm not confident on Zinchenko, and I am confident on Havertz being able to hold the ball up. So I don't see why we should try and invite extra pressure on us at the moment. But yeah, we'll have to see on that, won't we? Is Havertz even going to start? But no goalie cock-ups, no getting the ball turned over close to our penalty area. If we can avoid those two things, then I feel like we're almost halfway there, really. I'm not downgrading Villa in any way at all, but I do believe we have better players. And they've just beaten City, though, which we did with a deflected goal. So it's really tightly balanced here. Another thing in terms of the Villa players is that they're going to be so up for it after the result at City, and what they're going to want to prove is that it wasn't just a one-off, because it's not just the result, it was the performance as well. So can they show that they can produce two levels of high performance within a few days at home? And so there's questions to be asked for them there as well. In terms of any kind of personnel changes for Arsenal from the midweek game, I think Raya's going to keep his place. Gabriel and Saliba pretty much pick themselves. It's going to be Zinchenko at left back, and it's going to be Ben White at right back. I don't see Kiwior coming in for Zinchenko. I really don't. Um, I wouldn't be against it, but I think he's going to go with Zinni on this one. Interestingly, is midfield. So obviously Odegaard is going to play, Declan Rice is going to play. Does he then go with Jorginho or Havertz in a kind of more attacking eight? There's arguments for both. The arguments for Jorginho is that he's going to help you give control. The flip side of that, though, is again that Jorginho can be got at like Zinchenko can. Is he going to be turning over the ball too many times? Havertz gives us an option to go long if we're struggling to play out from the press. Now, you could argue that Jesus offers a similar kind of capability up front. He doesn't have the height of Havertz, but if you get the ball to him, he's going to hold on to it. So I suspect he's going to go with Jorginho. He really likes him. He really trusts him. I think he'll drop Havertz. I say drop's maybe a bit harsh, but I don't think he's going to start with Kai at the weekend. I think he's going to go with Jorginho, which actually, I can't believe I'm saying this. I think I'd rather him start with Kai. But trying to second guess the manager, who knows? And you know what? The games are starting to come thick and fast, so we are going to have to rotate. But I think he's going to go with Jorginho. And then, so you'll have Rice, Jorginho, Odegaard, and then Saka, Jesus, and Martinelli up front, and then Trossard and Kai on the bench. That's what I think he's going to go with. Yeah, I'm fairly confident on that. You know, we'll see. Interestingly, with Odegaard, last couple of games, he's starting to play a little bit deeper. It feels like. And I've looked at some heat maps, and he is definitely playing a lot deeper than he used to previously, which is quite nice because he was going through a period where he was playing so far up the pitch, and in my opinion, he was kind of getting into Saka's kind of personal space. And I really don't see the point in having Saka and Odegaard close to each other, because whatever Odegaard can do from that kind of position on the right in the final third, I feel like Saka can do. And it opens up him, not Odegaard not being in that position, opens more of the pitch up for Saka, I believe. So I quite like that Odegaard's starting to be a bit deeper, but he's got an incredible passing range on him, and he's got incredible vision. So the deeper he is, he can almost have more influence on the game because he can see more of the pitch at that point. So that would be interesting, because we're going to have to pick holes through the madness that Villa are going to try and employ on us. I feel it's going to be a bit like the Newcastle game. Just that real high intensity. There's going to be challenges flying in left, right, and centre. Yeah, I do actually. I think the Newcastle game is going to be a very, very similar kind of blueprint. And he played Jorginho in that game, and Jorginho I thought did really well. So, yeah, I'm even now more convinced he's going to, even though we actually lost, but that was down to the refs. I'm even now more convinced that Jorginho is going to start that one. So, I was looking at some stats. Let's see if we can get this on here. No, we don't want that one. This is the one we want. Just comparing the head-to-head between us and Villa, and played 56, total home wins 31, total wins 11 for Villa. Okay, all right then. So the main one I want to look at here is, let's look at the form guide. Villa are really up and down here, aren't they? I mean, they're on this incredible home run, but they lost 2-0 away to Forest. And that's like a derby as well. Won 3-1 at Fulham, 2-1 at Spurs, Desmond with Bournemouth, and then they obviously beat City. So in the last 5, won 3, drawn 1, lost 1. Okay, and then Arsenal won 4 and lost 1. So our recent form is better. However, they've had tougher games than we've had. So there is an argument for that. Now, 110, we've won 11, drawn 2, we've drawn 3, we've lost 1, they've lost 3. The average goals and conceded, there's not, I say there's not a lot in it. There's a bit in it, really. I mean, 2.2 versus 2.27. So you can see here that the reason Arsenal are above Villa in the table is our defence. You know, we've kept 6 clean sheets, they kept 3. It's interesting, though, that the chances created per match are that much higher for Villa. I suppose they did. Apparently, they had like 20 shots yesterday. So I don't know if that's kind of really bumped it up somehow. Bumps up for them. I tell you what, they got a proper slapping on the opening day of the season, 5-1 away to Newcastle. Wow. So yeah, Ollie Watkins on 8 goals, Saka on 6 assists. Obviously, Douglas Luiz is number 1 in tackles, and Saliba in passes. So in terms of the stats, it feels fairly kind of even to me. But this is where I go to where I talk about the opportunities we've been giving other teams with the mistakes we've been making. You know, it's really costing us, and we should be further ahead in the league than we are, and we're not because of errors that we've made. So I fully expect Villa to try and kind of capitalize on that, really. And then you've got Unai versus Mikel. Now, Mikel's banned from the touchline. I think he'll be in the stands. He's going to be in the stands, so he'll have AirPods or walkie-talkies or whatever with the bench. So I don't think that's going to have too much of an effect on things. We've had an extra day's recovery, which I think could really come into it in the last 15, 20 minutes. I'm not sure how deep the Villa bench is, but they're probably going to have to take advantage of it at some point in the match. You know, who's going to tactically outdo who? I don't think it's going to be a very tactical game. I think it's going to be a blood and guts kind of match. And I do worry that Luton game, how much has it taken out of us? 4-3. I mean, Villa have beat Man City, but they completely kind of shellacked them, really. We were kind of back and forth like a basketball match. How much has that taken out of us? Or does that even up with the extra days rest that we've had? These are the things we need to figure out, and we won't know till Friday evening. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Thanks very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you have any comments, please feel free to join in the chat. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.